To all you comic book fans listening to this, you may be expecting to hear our theme song at this point, but as your co host, I have something to address first. That is the fact that you are listening currently to a cursed episode. We have tried to record this episode no less than 3 times, and each time something different has gone completely wrong and kept us from being able to record. This episode has taken a great length of effort to bring out, so we hope you enjoy and that the curse does not affect your home.
Hello and welcome to Comics with B and W. I'm Wilson, and with me as always is...
Bobby, that's me.
And on today's show, we're going to be discussing Going to the Chapel, a comic from publisher Action Lab Comics, written by David Pepose, with art by Gavin Guidry, colors by Elizabeth Kramer, and lettering by Ariana Marr. Got it in one. You guys don't even know.
So many takes this took.
You heard that disclaimer. That intro was just one of the reasons it took us so long to do this. But let's get into this. Welcome to another episode of Comics with B and W. Oh, it feels good to say that. Today's comic was Bobby's idea. It was Bobby's idea. We are both huge fans of David Pepose. You've read more from him than I have, but
Read Spencer and Locke.
Yeah, I've read Spencer and Locke.
You haven't read Spencer and Locke too.
I have not.
I'm telling our listeners to read those books too.
I've not yet read Spencer and Locke 2, but it's on my list. He just did Scout's Honor, just finished one of the best books
Amazing
this year.
book too.
But for this episode, we are talking about Going to the Chapel. The premise behind this book is that the bride, Emily, and the groom, Jesse, are going to get married, and their ceremony becomes the setting of a robbery and hostage situation. And one of the robbers is, dun dun dun, someone from Emily's past, her ex-boyfriend Tom.
Something going wrong in a wedding in a fictional story? Who could have seen that coming?
Yes, it's actually pretty cool. I always like when robberies and hostage situations and things like that happen in un, you know, uh, standard locales, so to speak. We'll get more into the specifics of the characters and spoilers, but I will say I just think the characters' work is the highlight of the book.
You always say that, though.
Yeah, because it normally is. It's very rarely the plot. I mean, it's very rarely where it's like.
And I'm sure a lot of writers would take that as offense, but no, we both read stories for the characters. Sometimes plots have intricate themes and complex narratives, but the fact of the matter is, we cover comic miniseries here. It's pretty hard to achieve that in a comic miniseries unless you're Denny's Camp functioning with a 12th level intellect.
Exactly, and one of the things, like you said, we're doing a lot of miniseries, so character work is sort of the groundwork that ties the whole plot that happens throughout them. More often than not, even if it is a plot-heavy book, still the character work has to be exceptional, and this book is no exception to that. This one was only 4 issues, which was shorter than what we normally do. Normally, there are 5 or 6.
5 or 6 issues.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 4 issues is a standard for a lot of companies, actually.
Oh, interesting. So, yeah, but also not even just that. This book, compared to a lot of other ones we've done, only takes place mostly in the church, the setting. There's some, flashbacks and stuff, but
you could very easily film this as a film, and it wouldn't even cost that much.
Exactly. In fact, I'm surprised this hasn't been like a Netflix indie movie that's come out or something.
I know Spencer and Locke was optioned. I don't think this has been optioned yet.
I think this could be made pretty well. It's just like I said,
you definitely only need a couple million total.
Mm-hmm. I will say I wasn't sure if I was going to like this book until the final issue when it all sort of came together. I was liking the characters, I was sort of liking things that were happening, but it wasn't really until I read the end, and how the book ended, I should say, that I was like, okay, now I like the book. Which is weird and very rare for me because I'm almost always more of a journey towards the ending type of person. like the journey's more interesting than the destination itself. Even
Right.
though I can like the destination, I can not like the destination or whatever the ending may be. But if I thought the journey was good, I can still like the story that was told overall. So it was interesting for me as I was reading it. I was like, I'm not sure if I actually like this because I just didn't like what was sort of happening with certain character interactions and certain character dynamics. And I'll get into that in spoilers. I have a pretty big paragraph that basically covers the whole book about what it is. But once the ending happened, I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I like it. You sold me, and once that happened, I was like, okay, this is good. I can talk about this book now, in a positive light because I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be good. I don't know if I like it at all. But no, I ended up liking it a lot.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'd say I enjoyed this book. I don't think I loved any of the characters. I don't think the plot was one that will stick with me for ages, but not every book. We talked about this in an episode we haven't released yet because our backlog has gotten kind of clogged because we haven't been recording because of this cursed episode. Um, but not every book we cover has to be a 10 out of 10 masterpiece comic for the ages. Sometimes it can just be a really solid comic with an interesting premise. And I can definitely say this is a good comic that isn't really like anything else on the shelves. It's low key, it's humorous, but it doesn't take itself too seriously while still keep staying grounded. So it's not cartoony. It's all set in a very much its own reality. This could all theoretically happen, but at the same time, it has a whimsical tone, I'd say, that go to it. It's the fairy. They say some weddings are like fairy tales. I think this could kind of be compared to a fairy tale in a way. Would you see that comparison?
I actually could. Yes, that's an interesting way, especially because you're saying the whimsical aspect of it, and it's still grounded, and it raises the stakes, but the humor is always still there, even though as the stakes kind of get higher as
You're
every
never
issue.
you're the characters are put in danger, but you're never actually worried about them, almost like a Saturday morning
Exactly,
cartoon.
exactly. So it's very interesting how that balance was handled, where I never really felt like anyone was really in any danger, but I also liked that even though that was true, they didn't Paposi didn't shy away from writing in danger into the aspect of what could normally be a very serious situation, a robbery and a hostage situation. But,
Mm-hmm.
he kept the humor alive throughout it to the point where I was like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be fine for everyone. But also due to how just the way Emily was, and we'll get more into her, I definitely was like, I don't really feel too much danger for a lot of the people that are involved in this.
Right.
And then once again, based on how it ended, I was like, yeah, this is definitely the way it needed to go for this book to be, I should say, good in my eyes. I don't know if there might have been other people that wanted it to go a different way, but for me, I'm really glad with the way it ended because it fit the narrative that was going.
Agreed. Moving on to the art. Honestly, my favorite thing about the art this time around is the coloring. It is a very dry, desaturated and it fits this for lack of a better word, realistic
Hmm.
world really damn well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I thought it was very good. Like there wasn't anything too extra about it, but I thought all the characters had very distinct looks, which is always a good thing that you don't always see that. So I was always able to tell, even if I forgot names or if I didn't know who was who, I could tell just by their look who they were. So I could always just
Something you
remember.
definitely don't see in Big Two comics: actual
Exactly.
diverse body types.
Exactly. So
You've got some really skinny people, some chubby people, some muscular people.
yeah, it shouldn't be as rare of a thing for artists to give people memorable features, but unfortunately it is sometimes. So that's something I very much appreciated about the art and the colors in this book was just that the characters themselves had personality, not just with the writing, but with the art based on the features that they were given. So
Mm-hmm.
I very much like that.
Cool. Cool.
And
So I feel like we didn't actually tell people who may not have read the book what actually happens. So essentially, what the hook this book was sold on was a hostage situation has a weapon happens at a wedding, but the bride, getting cold feet, takes control of the situation, and hijinks ensue from there. I don't feel that Hooks really sells what happens in the book personally. I feel like it gave me a much different expectations than what actually plays out. But at the same time, it sticks to that tone of, oh, wacky, the bride's in charge of a hostage situation. And it also gets some really good drama out of that with how it affects her relationship to the head hostage taker, Tom, and her groom, Jess. And there's a whole bunch of other colorful characters, ranging from a dumbass best man to a really fun maid of honor to, unfortunately, a racist grandma. We will talk about the racist grandma.
Yeah. Just in terms of like the hook, especially because I am, which fair not fair, it may be. I am sort of a judge a comic by the cover type of person sometimes, and based on the synopsis and the cover, I didn't think it was a real wedding. So
Wait, what?
yeah, like I didn't think it was real wedding. Just within the first issue,
Okay.
by
You
the
gotta tell me,
like
just when you saw the cover, what
yes.
the fuck did you think this book was about?
So I thought that Emily and Tom were basically conning this dude, Jesse. Like it was a long con, basically. And
Okay, so
they
you thought a wedding was happening, but that it
yeah,
wasn't a real romantic
but it wasn't
wedding.
a real romantic wedding. And like Tom would come in and uh basically do what happens, which is the hostage situation, but Emily was in on it from the beginning, and they were all just after all these people's money and everything. Like it was always going to be Tom and Emily.
Dang.
Like that's what I thought it was based on the cover and the synopsis that I had read. I was like, okay, this is where this is gonna go. But by the end of the first issue, I was like, is it? I'm not sure what this is now. Because I was like, well, no, clearly she's actually supposed to marry this guy. Like it's
Mhm.
like she was clearly shocked about Tom being there, which I guess kind of a spoiler a little bit there. Um, but yeah, that's what I thought. I don't want to get too deep into spoilers just yet. But yeah, so that's what I thought. I thought it was a like a long con type of wedding where they were just trying to get the guy's money. But it was which was weird because then they're like, "You have no family, Jesse. It's all just family of the bride." I'm like, "Then what is going on?" I'm just like, "Are all these people in on it?" I'm like, "This is so weird."
But I'm guessing that idea went away as soon as like you opened the first two pages, saw, oh, she's rich.
Yeah, because I'm like, "Oh, she's the one with money. Like she's the one wearing." And because what they're there, because I'm saying robbery, even though the hostage situation, what it becomes, they're there to steal a necklace she's wearing. So
Is that something rich people do? They get necklaces loaned out to them?
I probably, I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't know. But it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Uh,
They can rent whatever they want. They're that type of rich.
can I go on a tangent really quick?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Have you read the Lord of the Rings books?
I haven't read the books. I only saw the movies.
Okay, because I was watching a video by a guy named Dominic Noble. You should check out his channel on YouTube. He's really funny, really smart about books, and he was covering characters from Lord of the Rings who didn't make it into the movies.
Hmm.
One of them is the single most powerful character in all of Middle Earth, Tom Bombadil. A funny little guy who, despite being as powerful as Sauron, just cares about doing his farming all day.
Hmm.
And ever since I watched that video, every time I've heard the name Tom or seen the name Tom, when I'm talking about Tom King, Tom Taylor, other Tom who's not in comics, I just think, it's Tom Bombadil! So every time we're saying Tom now, talking about this book, I'm just imagining Tom Bombadil showing up to this wedding and be like, ooh, a hostage situation. That's neat. Bunch of some popcorn. I could kill you all with a snap of my fingers, but I'm just here to enjoy the
I'm
show.
just gonna watch. Let's see where this goes. Interesting. Okay.
See,
We're
that's
gonna.
just what we need to get out because it's my mind is shouting Tom Bombadil every time one of us says Tom.
So just in case you say it, people will have that background now of why you just said that after one of us says Tom.
Okay, want to get your permission on this on air. Can I, in editing, have me screaming Tom Bombadil in the background, softly and muffled every time one of us says Tom? Because I think I'm editing this one.
You are editing this one, and I guess we can see.
We'll see how it
Well,
sounds.
let's see how it sounds. We'll see how it sounds.
All right, now that I've probably destroyed this episode, let's move on to spoilers.
Okay, spoilers. I'll go first. Like I said, I have a long paragraph which covers basically most of the book, so feel free to jump in at any time as I
Okay.
go through this. So I want to expand obviously on why I almost didn't like the book. We've had conversations about how I rarely connect with characters in comics in general. So Emily is, as we said, non-spoilers, she's marrying Jesse, but she's extremely commitment phobic for most of the book. And one of the robbers, her ex-boyfriend named Tom, and he's there. I'm laughing just because I'm thinking of you putting that in the edit. Her ex-boyfriend named Tom, and he's there to steal expensive jewelry that she's wearing for the wedding. And due to Emily not wanting to marry Jesse, literally in the first parts of the book, she's almost about after the I do. Jesse says I do. He's about to say, oh, I don't think I can do it, and Jesse and Tom comes in. She basically uses Tom robbery as a cover to get out the wedding. So for most of the book, I felt like I had to read Jesse care for this woman who he loves and who is giving him basically the bare minimum of affection because she doesn't share those same feelings. Now, I'm not gonna go into my deep well of sadness that is my love life, but I connect with Jesse on that pretty deep level, and I was worried at how much Propose was sort of making Jesse's, affection feel like a trap compared to Tom offering this escape from the wedding, to the point that it felt like he was sort of vilifying Jesse a bit too
I could see
much,
that. I could
you
see
know?
that.
And also, I'm on record that I absolutely hate love triangles. So if you're going to do something, have whoever's in it pick someone and just move on from there. Don't lead on two people, however the triangle may be. So this was a weird subversion of that because you did have initially Emily sort of unintentionally leading Jesse, but not really, because Jesse just didn't realize what was happening with her, and she's trying to get away with Tom. But by having Emily not tell Jesse the situation, it really just felt like it was vilifying her. So for most of the book,
Do you think it would? Do you think it would have worked better if they'd given a hint that maybe Jesse had actually done something wrong at all?
maybe if there was some reason for why Emily
Like having
was,
cold feet on its own, that's perfectly natural.
yeah,
Nerves and anxiety, but it doesn't help make her a more likable character.
because it didn't feel like cold feet to the point. It felt like such an extreme cold feet. I was just like, why are you here? It was
Mhm.
such a commitment phobia that she seemed to have, which I think definitely came from Tom more than Jesse.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
that also didn't help because for most of the book she appears to choose Tom. So I continue to read this as Jesse's coming off as the villain of this story, and I'm just like, why would you go with Tom? Because we can see from the flashbacks that Tom's sort of the one that left her and made her as commitment phobic as she is, and Jesse's given her all this affection and is truly the quote unquote good guy in the
Yeah,
situation.
I was kind of worried they were gonna make she's gonna go for the bad boy instead of the quote nice guy, and Jesse would then actually have those disgusting nice guy traits towards the end.
Exactly. Now, I wouldn't have minded if she didn't want Jesse, and that's just, it was the sort of perception that Jesse wasn't doing what Emily wanted, which wouldn't have
Hmm.
been his fault. Uh, she just wasn't what he wanted. But as opposed to what happened was she just didn't want to marry the guy, and he just didn't know that. And going so far, I want to say the end of issue 3, she is pointing a shotgun at Jesse and she's like, "Sorry, I don't want to do this." And I'm just like
Ugh.
so sad for Jesse. And I'm mad at Emily for most of it
Right?
because the thing is, I don't believe her sadness, you know, about what's happening because there's a scene even after, I think before the shotgun, when she's pointed at Jesse, where Jesse takes a shotgun uh blast to his chest,
And he's saved
and
by
he's saved by, what was it, his
his
like
notebook.
notebook, yeah, the with all the architect, stuff in it. And but they all think he's dead for half a second, which I didn't believe because there was like no blood. Like I get that, you know this is a comic and it's not like an M comic or anything like that, but still there'd be a little bit of blood. He just took a shotgun blast. But when I'm reading it and Emily's all sad that he's dying, I'm like, why are you sad? You're about to leave with Tom. I'm like,
Right?
why do you
You
care?
you must have found it pretty cathartic when he just smacked Tom across the head.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so when he came back and he saves Emily, and but when he was doing that though, it also felt, because I knew Emily didn't want to marry him, it felt like he was this obsessive, guy, wannabe husband at the end of issue 3, and then to the point that I really liked when they had that twist where Jesse realizes what Emily did want, and I would have preferred Emily told him, but with Jesse realizing that, and that she didn't want to marry him, and he's finally actually able to understand what she wants, he immediately just says, "Fine, wedding's canceled."
Right.
Like he
He's a good guy, a
exactly, he
genuinely
truly
good
is a
guy.
genuinely good guy. Like the first thing, it isn't "you said you were going to marry me," or whatever it could have been to make you go, "Oh nope, Emily's right, this guy's terrible," or Tom's the one that should be with her. It's like, no, Jesse is a legitimate good guy. And the now once that happened, that's when the book started to really land for me. And then once Jesse,
So the last issue is by far your favorite.
exactly, it is, because once Jesse finally had the information he needed, he helped her make the choice that would make her happy. And that's
Hmm.
that's just completely spoil the ending since we are in spoilers. When Jesse tells Emily about his plans for their life, and then Emily finally realizes Jesse is the one, and they get married and Tom gets the necklace, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a good book now. Like that's when all that finally came through.
That
that
makes sense.
that's when I was like, okay, this is a good book. Like if they needed to do something with Jesse earlier,
Hmm.
that would make the lessen the perception that he was sort of the villain of the book,
Right.
and I would have liked it earlier. But once they finally did that, which wasn't until the final issue, in my opinion, I'm sure others might read this and be like, no, obviously he wasn't a villain. It's like, yeah, he clearly wasn't a villain, but the perception of Emily being the POV of the book, and you're
He's
looking
not
at,
a villain, but he's an antagonist for a lot of
yeah,
people. Like
exactly.
his
He's the
story.
antagonist because what she wants, and he straight up says it in the book, where he's like, "I didn't realize marrying me would be a trap." Like
Hmm.
I don't want to trap you into something you don't want to do. So once he finally got caught up to all the information that Emily was working through, which Tom had from the beginning, so that's why it was just weird reading it. I'm like, I'm not sure if I like this, and I was liking it to the Emily's family. I thought was fine. Like you said, we'll get into the racist grandma, who I did have a funny part, I thought, but
Also, we haven't mentioned the cops who were outside the entire time.
they meant nothing.
Yeah.
No, like that. Yeah, they didn't. I don't even remember how they got
They
there.
were just there to add a ticking clock.
Yes, exactly. The bomb had more of a role to play than they did.
Why was there a bomb? Why? Who does that? That's the one part of the story that takes it out of reality. Why did they
Yes.
have that
Like
bomb?
suddenly, like I think it was the end of issue 2 or something, and when the cops show up, and it's like, okay, it just got real. Here's a bomb, and it's like, okay, this just like that's one way to raise the stakes. It's like, okay. Uh,
I did just think of another reason this would work perfectly as a movie, though.
yeah, go ahead. I'm basically, that was basically my paragraph, but that
No,
journey
yeah,
that I just took through, that was
that's really interesting, and I agree with a lot of what you said.
yeah, that was how I looked at it. But yo, go
Bef-
ahead.
no, before I go on my tangent, I'll say, yeah, Jesse, favorite character by the end because even if they're basic, not the most complex, I'm a softie for the occasional character who's just, yeah, they're a good person. Oh my God,
Yes.
they don't have serious flaws that make them an asshole.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, you have Emily, who is interesting because of her serious flaws. There's room for both of these type of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my least favorite of the three leads is Tom. He felt kind of like the generic bad boy. I've been watching Gilmore Girls recently, and I couldn't help but compare him to Jess. You have no idea who this is. He was played by Peter Petrelli from Heroes, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm too cool. I hate everyone. Ugh. What are you doing with these losers, Emily, aka Rory?" But no, he was fun. His whole gang was fun. I did enjoy them. There just wasn't much to them, in my opinion.
I agree. I liked the gang. What was it? It was at one point when I think the cops are about to break in or something's about to happen, and the gang's sort of by themselves because Tom's off with Emily and Jesse having their bout, and the gang's just like, did they just leave? Did Tom just leave us? Yeah, I think he just left us all by ourselves. Like, what a dick, just like I
Who's
thought
getting
that was
his share?
yeah. I thought that was pretty funny,
Mm-hmm.
and I did like the ending.
Everyone in this book gets a moment.
Yes.
Pepos is really good about that. No character is completely wasteful, even if they don't contribute much to the story on their own. Everyone gets at least a dedicated gag or a small little plot line of their own.
Yeah, because yeah, speaking, you were talking about the best man and maid of honor, basically, which is another sort of trope with weddings, uh, where the best man is constantly either does or is constantly trying to hook up with the maid of honor, and that was a running gag throughout this. And then at the end, the maid of honor hooks up with another girl.
The girl obsessed with social media.
Yes, that's how the cops got there. The social media. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, you missed that?
No, I didn't. I just forgot it. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I was like, how did they get there? I just
And
completely forgot about that girl.
someone tweeting out they're in a hostage situation at a wedding, much more believable than the bomb. Goddamn 20-year-old speaking as a 22-year-old. But no, what I was saying before, why this would work perfectly as a movie.
Yes.
Wilson, what is Jesse's job?
Jesse, he's an architect.
And as we all know, if you're in a movie, specifically a romance, or even going further as called what this is, a rom-com, since there's a heavy comedy element,
Yeah.
you are either an architect, a magazine editor, or a baker. There are no other options.
Wow.
It
That's
is
good.
the law of
The
Hollywood.
law of rom-coms. Actually, wouldn't be bad though. Yeah. That's true.
Netflix is, yeah.
I'm telling you, this is a Netflix movie waiting to happen.
Any ideas for the cast?
Oh, cast. That I'm terrible at fan casting. I would just I'm trying to just think. It's terrible because I'm currently watching Mortal Kombat and I'm basically just thinking of Mortal Kombat. So it would just be like the guy who played Jax would be Jesse, which is wrong in all aspects.
Yeah, that's awful.
Just like that's the only black guy I can think of right now.
Oh.
Like Sonya Blades, Emily.
Maybe it's because he's already played such a brilliant, genuinely good guy already, and because he's ripped just like Jesse. William Jackson Harper.
Oh, because he was
Cheating.
Cheaty in The Good Place. Yes. Honestly, just get The Good Place cast.
Oh my God, it fits.
Like, I think that would.
People are always saying they should be the Fantastic Four. No, get them for going to the
Get them for
chapel.
this. Are you kidding?
Actually, no, get them for both. I do also want them as the Fantastic Four.
They would actually work as Fantastic Four too. That's actually pretty good. I didn't think I heard Cheaty for Mr. Fantastic, but I didn't think of the whole cast. That's pretty good too. But yeah, we just did it for you, Netflix. Get the cast of The Good Place. Get David Pepose to. I don't know if he does screenwriting, but he can figure it out. You know what I mean?
Can Netflix afford Kristen Bell?
If Ellen can afford Kristen Bell, Netflix can afford Kristen Bell. Because Ellen has Kristen Bell on some show on her Ellen Tube thing. I only know that because I work in TV and have to see Ellen all the time.
I am so sorry.
Yeah. Like I there's a lot of those shows like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, gotta watch all that stuff. But yeah, so if Ellen can afford her, I'm pretty sure Netflix can. But anyway, back to the book. But yeah, we were talking, just about, I think, in terms of the grandma, just for half a second.
We're going to the racist grandma.
Just for a second. I don't want to spend too much time on, old tropes and things like that. But but this is actually just sort of not necessarily a positive, but just sort of something I thought was funny, which is that because they were looking for, because when it becomes a hostage situation, mostly because they're trying to rob people and all that, but they're mostly there for the necklace, and the necklace is gone for most of the book, and then at the end you discover that the grandma had the necklace, and I just thought it was funny. Why? Because she's like, I need some weed money, but seeing how much this man loves you and how good you guys are together is better than some mind-blowing kush or whatever she said. And I was like, that's pretty funny. Like I literally said that out loud.
She does get a lot of good gags, and I'm generally not a fan of the cool, hip grandma trope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that's really tired. But equally tired, as we've been referring to her several times, is also the racist grandma trope, which she's revealed to be at the very end.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's unfortunate that
don't portray likable characters as bigots, please. Just don't. Stop that. It's not a quirky character trait or a flaw. No, it makes them immediately reprehensible and unlikable.
And definitely don't excuse it with, it's just the era they
don't excuse it, but she's really like,
no, not in this book.
That wacky grandma.
Yeah, they don't necessarily excuse in this book. I'm just saying in general, one of the things that happens all the time when it doesn't even have to be like weddings or whatever. It can just be the character themselves, where they'll say a bunch of racist stuff and someone will be like, that was pretty racist, and it's like, and then like the kid of the parent or grandma or whoever will say, it's just the era they grew up in. It's like, it's not better, right? It's like that's not a good excuse. So also stop doing that, please. If you're writing something right now and you realize you just wrote that, do something else.
Listen, you know what? I'm gonna go one step further on this, because I doubt you're listening to our podcast, the little podcast of a black man and a trans woman, if you're writing something like this. But there are seriously people out there still trying to write Nazi love stories. Stop that! Stop that right now!
Like, wasn't there was a movie on that like a couple
years ago. They made a fucking movie out of that. That got picked up. All the amazing stories out there you could get picked up, that get picked up instead.
I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, because the whole Black Lives Matter thing happened, and then the
Please, for the love of God, tell me no one wrote a slave era love story.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's happened. I'm 100% sure that's happened, but I'm also sure that there's the white supremacy Proud Boys, I think, is probably going to happen. Stop that right now, because like all this stuff, stop Asian hate, free Palestine, all that stuff, you don't need to have a both sides love story argument.
Everything must be both sides love story.
Stop that right now. Also, it's not on the black girl, black guy, Asian girl, the gay man, whatever, to redeem the white dude. Stop that.
Or just in general, I'll go one step further. We don't need any kind of story where the woman has to fix the man of any kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one more thing before we close out, because I remembered this bullshit. We'll get back to the book soon, folks, I promise. This is our podcast. We can talk about what we want. Um,
We choose these books to help us find other things to talk about.
um,
But go ahead.
I did not see someone suggest this as a book they were going to write, but I actually saw a literary agent at an agency
Mm.
requesting Palestine, Israel, Romeo and Juliet.
Oh my God. Like, just stop. Because that's the problem is everyone's trying to do Romeo and Juliet. Like, that's what they think they're doing. You
And it's
know,
not. That's
and
not how it
it's like, and it's
works.
not. That's not it. It's not. You're not Shakespeare. Read Romeo and Juliet, and you'll see you're not Shakespeare. The cultural war of both sides has shifted a lot since Shakespeare.
Also, as a reminder, um, fucking Romeo and Juliet is not a story between an oppressor and the oppressed. It's two rich assholes.
Yeah. Like, do a Chicago LA love story. Just I'm from
Amorph.
Chicago and I live in the Sears in no, I don't think you can do it. Hilton Hotel. I'm a famous kid from LA. You know, like,
I wrote a Romeo and Juliet YA novel. I've told you about
yeah,
this with like two lesbian mean girls in high school.
yep.
That's how you do a Romeo and Juliet, not when I'm from a land that's trying to massacre your entire people and take all your land. Oh, cool, I'm in love with you.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, so back to the
Anyway,
comic book about the funny exploding people.
you have anything else to add in the spoiler section? I think we covered most things.
Um, yeah, I feel like we've talked about. Yeah, I feel like we've covered up. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
We'll move to final thoughts.
Okay, yep, I'll go. But yeah, but so overall, if you're like me and you connect too closely with Jesse, this is still a fun book. It's just gonna piss you off for a little while, but by the end, you'll most likely have enjoyed it. The art is good, the characters are fine. They work for the setting and the book that it's in, and they are pretty memorable, whether you like them or not. It's a pretty quick read. Like we said, it's only 4 issues. I wrote this down as a cool down type of book. It's that type of book where, because and which I think really works for what you were saying with it being like a fairy tale romance type of thing. I think it really works as a cool down type of book where it's nothing too heavy. There's a lot of humor. So if you're really just looking for a quick read, I think this is a great book for that because it has a lot of humor and the stakes are high but never too high that you really feel there's any danger.
All right. And for me, I would say that Going to the Chapel is not a book that will change your life. It will not leave you wanting sequels. If you want more of that kind of stuff, check out Pepos' other work, Spencer and Locke and Scout's Honor. Those books have rich, memorable characters you'll instantly fall in love with and want to see more of. Dramatic moments that'll stick with you for a long time, impactful themes. That is not what Going to the Chapel is. This is a light afternoon read that you can comfortably get through in one sitting, get a good amount of laughs out of, get an aw happy ending smile out of it, and be touched. If you like romance, if you like rom-coms, and if you like some flawed character leads, you're gonna like this. It's got a lot of laughs, it's got a lot of heart, and it won't take much time for you to get through.
Absolutely.
And as always, to close out, we have to grade this comic with our new fancy grading system. Wilson, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. How many shotgun weddings that I performed last summer out of 5 will you give this? Please do not ask about any of the 5 shotgun weddings because they were kind of messy and I'm still banned from at least 3 states.
I give this, well, speaking of 3, I'd give this 3 out of 5 shotgun weddings.
I'll be a bit more generous. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I am going to give it that 0.5 extra because while I would say, yes, this is a perfectly standard book, writing wise, it is a nice story to read. It is elevated by what I feel to be a unique genre amongst comics. It's not horror, sci-fi, or hard drama. You don't see many books like this. And like I said, I really enjoy the coloring in this book. I would absolutely love to remind me of the colorist's name. I'm blanking on it really quickly. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Elizabeth Kramer.
Yeah, Liz Kramer, would love to work with you sometime. Your work is gorgeous.
All right. Awesome. That'll do it for us. You can email me anytime at smithwilson72@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter at deadletterpoets.
And you can email me at samuel.singer98@gmail.com and follow me at BobbyLSinger. And if you have any books you'd like for us to check out, please just send a message our way. We have not got any requests yet, but seriously, if you want to at this point, if you send something, we'll probably cover it because no one else is sending requests. So there's some encouragement for you.
All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Have a great day.